You've been asking for it, you have been waiting for it, and it is finally back. It is the High Limit Room show here for 2025. We are going to be here every single week talking about everything high limit racing, things that you may have missed, storylines, interviews. We'll bring drivers on here as well. Things are going to be looking a little bit different, feeling a little bit different, and sounding a little bit different. I am Chase Raudman, the announcer for Kubota High Limit Racing. I will be joined later on in the program by pit reporter with High Limit, Tony Laporta, and social media expert Brian Walker as well. Things that we will be talking about here during this show today. It's going to be a little bit different every single week, but for the opening show, we'll talk about the schedule that you'll be seeing this year with High Limit Racing. We'll be talking some gambling sections as well, and we'll also be introducing you to our full-time list of drivers, as well as a preview of the first race at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track. The first thing we want to do is jump into our full-time contenders for the series in 2025. We have 14 of them, including 5 drivers that were not with the series last year. And the first one we'll talk about is Aaron Reitzel, the driver out of Clute, Texas. He is going to be making the jump back to a national tour after running the Outlaw Tour in 2021. And due to him running the Outlaw Tour that year, he will actually not be eligible for Rookie of the Year honors this season with High Limit. But besides that, people are so excited to see what Reitzel can do this year. Last season, he was one of just a handful of drivers that was able to win not only a high limit race, but a World of Outlaws race as well. He got that high limit win during a really, really tough field of cars on a prelim night at the Tuscarora 50. He followed that up just a few weeks later with the Outlaws at Route 66 in Illinois. So Reitzel is a guy that is going to be a threat each and every night. He's won the All-Star Circuit of Champions title on a couple of different occasions. He will be driving the car that was formerly driven by Corey Eliason on the tour. It's the Ridge and Sun Racing, but will be the number 87 in 2025 instead of the number 8. Reitzel will be going into the tour as his own crew chief, which is something that we'll be following along with throughout the season, but he is certainly a huge addition to the 2025 high roller field. Now, let's get into our Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year contenders. That Race Redeem Foundation Rookie of the Year award will pay $5,000 to the top rookie at season's end. The first one we will talk about is Apollo, Pennsylvania's Cy Lynch, the 27-year-old driver who is well known around the Western PA area. He's been working towards this for a very long time, trying to get on the national tour. And finally, 2025 is the year where things are going to go his way and where he's going to be able to make it happen. We'll see him over at Las Vegas, making his way to the West Coast, going through the entire 60-race schedule. And a lot of people are very excited to see what he can do. Last year, Lynch came very close to a couple of high limit racing wins. He finished second 2 nights in a row at Lernerville during the Commonwealth Clash, which is his home track. If you are a fan of Cy Lynch, you'll be able to see him at Lernerville later on this year for both the Don Martin Memorial Silver Cup as well as that Commonwealth Clash where he finished second both races last year. He also was in contention for the win at Lucas Oil Speedway during the Diamond Classic. He led a bunch of laps there, got passed late by a couple of drivers, ended up in 5th, but a lot of people are very excited to see how Cy Lynch will do his rookie year on a national tour. Now, another driver he will be racing against for Rookie of the Year honors this season is the defending USAC National Midget Champion, and that is 20-year-old Dason Persley out of Locust Grove, Oklahoma. Persley is in a very interesting situation, though, because going into Vegas, he will have less than 30 career 410 sprint car starts under his belt. He is a full-blown, true rookie to 410 wing sprint car racing. He's teamed up with Buick Motorsports, the car that was formerly driven by Justin Peck, so he's got a well-established team behind him, and Persley has shown that he is a quick learner. Last season, he won a Wing 410 race at Houston Speedway. He won in all 3 of USAC's national divisions. Not only that midget championship, he got a win at Port Royal Speedway in the Silver Crown car and won several times in the non-Wing 410 sprint car as well. So Dason Persley is a guy that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing how he will do this year, especially with the limited experience that he does have in this type of racing. Now, moving on to another Rookie of the Year contender, and that will be Danny Sams III out of Northport, Florida. The 22-year-old driver driver comes in with a family-based operation. If you are looking for a feel-good story this season, this is the guy for you. His dad, Danny Sams Jr., will be the crew chief on the car. His mom, Tina, will be the car chief, and that is as family as it gets right there. These guys are going to be fun to watch this year. An incredible story. Danny Sams has been making strides in his career over the last couple of seasons, and 2024 was easily a breakout season for this driver, getting 3 wins during the Ohio Sprint Speed Week. He got those at Hilltop Speedway along with Muskingum County and Atomic. He also won back-to-back IRA races as well in the state of Wisconsin. So Danny Sams is a guy that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing how he will do this year. He already showed great speed early on in the season at Volusia Speedway Park with the World of Outlaws, where he did get a top 10 finish. And so Danny Sams, we'll see what he can do with that family operation in that 24D car in 2025. The final Rookie of the Year contender that we have to talk about here in this one is Chase Randall, the 20-year-old out of Waco, Texas. He comes in with his brand new, or not, I guess not a brand new team, but bringing back his family-owned team, the number 9 car, with some new sponsorship on the side. He's got his dad, John, as the crew chief as well. And so a little bit of a family operation as well here for Chase Randall. And he's turned a lot of heads here over the last couple of years. Has not really been a full-time wing sprint car driver for all that long. Maybe the last 2 or so years he's really gotten into this thing and ran a ton of races, but he has shown some serious promise in that time. Last year almost won a high limit race at the I-70 Motorsports Park. He led 19 laps, ended up finishing in the 3rd spot. He also almost won a World of Outlaws show at Houston Speedway in another car, and that's one thing with Chase Randall here. He's driven so many different race cars over the last 2 years, but in 2025, things are calmed down, and he's going to be racing just his family-owned number 9 for the entire season, which should help as far as the stability goes with this driver going into this season. So those are the rookie drivers. Now let's get into some of the guys that are returning to the series, and some of these guys we're about to talk to are going to be in some different situations, including Spencer Bayston, a 26-year-old of Lebanon, Indiana. He is taking over the wheel of the Jason Myers Racing number 14 car. That was the car last year driven by Corey Day, who won several races throughout the 2024 campaign. Bayston is on the comeback trail, trying to find his way back into National Touring Victory Lane. He'll have Shane Bowers crew chiefing the car, who helped Corey Day go to several wins last season. Bayston looking for a big bounce-back season, and obviously leaving the CJB Motorsports number 5 was a huge shakeup in the silly season news, and then he came in and got into that 14. They've ran a couple of races so far together, and they will have to gel quickly at the beginning of the season, as Bayston is going to a bunch of new racetracks that he's never seen before. So Spencer Bayston looking to jump up through the point standings a little bit higher than his 7th place run last season. Also coming back is, of course, the defending High Limit Racing champion, and that is 39-year-old Brad Sweet out of Grass Valley, California. Sweet looking to double down after a dominating year 1 on tour, which saw him win the championship by 297 points. He also had 10 wins along the way, including 2 different series where he won 3 in a row throughout the season. So there were a couple of moments this year, or make that last year, where Brad Sweet was a dominating force on the tour. But things are going to be much, much different this year, as he will not have the same crew chief that he's won the last 6 national championships with, as Eric Prutzman moves over to Casey Kane's number 9 car. That promotes Ty Wolfgang, the former car chief, to the crew chief role, and so Brad Sweet will have some different things to worry about in 2025. Moving on, another guy moving into a new car. That is Justin Peck. The 26-year-old is moving into Kevin Rudin's number 26 car this year, the car that was formerly driven by Zeb Wise. Things went sideways in the offseason. Peck leaves the Buick Motorsports car, goes to Rudin, and this pairing has gotten off to a very hot start already. They ran last year at the World Finals with the Outlaws, got a couple of top 5s and a couple of top 10s, and 2025 has went almost flawlessly so far. They swept the entire weekend at Volusia Speedway Park with the ASCS 360 series, got a couple more top 10s when the Outlaws came to town down there in Barberville, Florida, and Justin Peck is looking to get a better season this year with High Limit. Last year, it was an okay one. He was able to get an emotional win at 4 Crown at Eldora Speedway, and so Peck has tasted victory lane with High Limit 2 times, but this could be the year where we see him win multiple races and maybe get into the top 5 in the point standings with this new team. Moving on, let's go to Tanner Thorson, the driver out of Minden, Nevada, now living in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, 28 years old. going into year 2 with Rod Gross Motorsports. Last year, this is a team that really did not have a ton of experience going up and down the road. The notebook was not very big. Tanner Thorson acting as his own crew chief for most of the year, and there was bright spots, including the very first race of the year. They ran second at East Bay. He ran second at Riverside during a midweek Money Series event, and then he was able to get an extremely emotional win during the prelim night at the Gold Cup Race of Champions, where he shocked the world and was able to get the job done, shutting up the haters. That was one of the things that we saw a lot on social media last year, was that Tanner Thorson is not a guy that can get a win, and he was sure enough to do it right there. There's a couple more times throughout the year, especially on the 3/8 miles, where Tanner Thorson was a guy that was contending for top fives and podium finishes. You think back to Lucas Oil, he was running right there in second, blew an engine, and was out of the race. I think this could be a big year for Tanner Thorson. We'll see what he can do. The former USAC National Midget Champion has moved on to bigger and better things, and year 2 on High Limit Racing's tour could be a big one for Thorson. Now, let's go on to Brent Marks. Last year, he finished off the season with a huge win at the Texas Motor Speedway for the finale that paid $50,000 to win. Other wins came along at Tri-City Speedway in Illinois, Grandview Speedway in PA as well. That was a midweek Money Series victory for him, where he got the win on the final corner. The 34-year-old out of Myerstown, Pennsylvania, was up in the air about returning to High Limit Racing in 2025, but he made the decision to return, and hopefully it'll pay off for him, as he is going to back to a couple of couple tracks where he's won at before. Some new tracks here and there for Brent Marks, obviously, but he's a guy that's been there and done that. He's went to a bunch of new racetracks in his career before, and we're looking to see if he can improve upon those 3 wins from last season and the 5th place position in point standings. The West Coast swing is something that is going to be needing a little bit of TLC here from Brent Marks if he wants to jump up there and contend with the likes of Brad Sweet, the likes of Rico Abreu, and the likes of Tyler Courtney. But Brent Marks is a fan favorite, and it is great to have him back on the High Limit Trail in 2025. Moving on, we already talked about his driver. We'll talk about the car owner and driver as well. Casey Kane, the 44-year-old out of Enumclaw, Washington. Last year, things probably did not go the way he was hoping for, but I really do believe this could be a year where we see Casey Kane in contention for that first ever national touring win, a win that has eluded him for so very long. We talked about it earlier with Eric Prutzman coming over to be the crew chief on his car for this year. Prutzman, a 6-time in a row national champion between the Outlaws and High Limit, now coming over to help out Casey Kane. There was a couple moments at the end of the year, World Finals, we saw Casey Kane up there inside the top 10 and top 5 at a very, very good field there. This could be the year that Casey Kane gets things going and maybe stands in national touring sprint car victory lane as a driver for the first time in his career. We already know how successful he's been as a car owner, but maybe this is the time for Casey Kane to get that elusive first ever win. Now, last year's second place finisher in points was Tyler Courtney. The 30-year-old out of Indianapolis, Indiana, returns with Clausen Marshall Racing in the 7BC. The multi-time All-Star Circuit of Champions titleist has shown that he can win on some of the biggest stages in all of sprint car racing. Got that Kings Royal win a few years ago. Last season was able to win 6 races, finished second in points by 1 over Rico Abreu, and along the way, showed a bunch of speed, showed a bunch of consistency. At one point in time, he was first or second for what seemed like a couple weeks at a time with the High Limit Racing Series, and now we'll see what they can do moving into year 2 on a national tour. We've seen Tyler Courtney win championships before without the wing on top of the car. He's a former USAC sprint car champion, so he's done that before, but can he do it on the level with the wing on top of the car and contend with the likes of Brad Sweet? Sweet, we know how good he is, but maybe this is the year with the crew chief swap, with Tyler Courtney going into year 2, maybe Sunshine could get up there and challenge him throughout the entire schedule, because at some points last year it looked like he was in the mix, got to the West Coast swing, and the wheels fell off. So Tyler Courtney, a lot of people are banking on him to maybe put up the challenge to Brad Sweet in 2025. Now, the other guy that was in that battle as well, in the top 3, Rico Abreu, the 32-year-old out of St. Helena, California. He's going to be a guy that's going into this year hoping for improvements as well. Now, the improvements don't need to come in the win column, because he had plenty of those. 8 wins, including a $100,000 payday at Skagit, following up a week later with the $57,000 win at the Tuscarora 50. He's one of Sprint Car Racing's most popular drivers. In fact, he might be the most popular driver, and people want to see this guy at the top of the heap when it comes to the end of the season, when it comes to winning this championship. There's been a couple of moments throughout the season. The very beginning of last year was where Rico got behind, but if they can clean up the start of the season, Rico should be a guy that contends with Brad Sweet and Tyler Courtney and keeps it a little bit closer when we get to the finale at Texas Motor Speedway in October. Now, the final driver we'll talk about returning to the series, albeit in a new car. He is the youngest driver on the tour, and that is 19-year-old Brenham Crouch. He will be driving the CJB Motorsports number 5 car this year that Spencer Bayston drove last year. Crouch last season was 16th in the overall point standings on his first ever season as a National Touring Sprint Car driver. Going into year 2, he's got the experience, and now he's got the experience behind him as well with Barry Jackson, the obviously famous crew chief on that CJB car for years. He's also got Hall of Fame Paul McMahon, Hall of Fame Sprint Car driver Paul McMahon behind him to help with the driving aspect of things as well. And all of those things should help parlay some success into Brenham Crouch's 2025 season. Look for a couple more top 10s from this driver, and look for him to run better at tracks that he visited at last year. So that's the 14 drivers that we've got racing full-time with High Limit Racing in 2025. We mentioned the schedule at the top of the show. 60 races going into this season, 15 new racetracks, along with 5 new states that we are going to. In those 60 races, you're going to get some of those biggest races back. Obviously, we're going to have the Gold Cup Race of Champions. We're going to have the Skagit Nationals. You're going to have the Joker's Jackpot at Eldora. You're going to have the 2 big races over at Port Royal with the Weikert and the Tuscarora 50. You're going to have all of those big races returning to the schedule, but we've got a bunch of new racetracks that are coming, and some places that have not seen 410 sprint cars in quite a long time. Central Arizona Speedway is going to be one of those places. A 2-day show there towards the beginning portion of the season. It's been a while for Arizona to get some 410 sprint cars, and High Limit is proud to be there later on in the month of March. Also, you can count in a track like Path Valley that has a lot of hype around it. A lot of people are looking forward to Path Valley. 2 nights at Florence Speedway in Kentucky. When was the last time Kentucky saw a National Touring Sprint Car race besides last year at Paducah with the Outlaws? It's probably been a couple of years for them. And then High Limit gets to finally break into Wisconsin. 2 nights there for the Roto-Rooter Midweek Money Series. The 141 Speedway and the Red Cedar Speedway will host High Limit Racing later on in the season, and that's going to be back-to-back nights for that midweek money series. So looking forward to 141 and Red Cedar. Looking forward to Wisconsin, a great fan base up there. Also got to count in Vado Speedway Park in New Mexico, which has hosted a lot of late model racing over the last couple of years and shown some really good promise as far as that racetrack goes. And then another track that's going to be on the schedule for the first time this year, a staple in Ohio, and that is the Fremont Speedway. And so that's going to be a fun one as well, a track that the All-Star Circuit of Champions visited for so many years, always finished their season there, and now High Limit will have a midweek money series event there as well. We mentioned the Roto-Rooter Midweek Series. That is an 11-race schedule built into the 60-race schedule at a bunch of really exciting racetracks, and we'll have to wait and see who will be the champion of that midweek money series in 2025. Last year, it was Tyler Courtney, barely holding off Brad Sweet for that extra bonus money. So the first race of the year is going to take place at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track. The first time that a 410 National Sprint Car Series has been there since 2019. The last time that happened was with the World of Outlaws when Donnie Schatz got a win over Darren Pittman on the final lap of the race there. And we are expecting a pretty healthy field of cars for that event, probably in the range of 35. It's on the same weekend as NASCAR, so you can obviously expect to see the likes of Kyle Larson, the likes of Corey Day. We know that Christopher Bell is going to be in the field as well in the Kreitz Racing 69K, and you could see maybe another surprise in the field. You'll have to wait and see who that is once we get to the racetrack on Thursday, but there could be a pretty big surprise in the field there as well. Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as we mentioned, has not hosted a ton of 410 stuff over the last couple of years, but But if I were to compare it to another racetrack, I feel like you could compare it a little bit to the Texas Motor Speedway dirt track, a place that High Limit went to last year on 3 occasions. The winners were Brad Sweet, Brent Marks, and Anthony Macri. And so you could probably expect to see those guys, Macri won't be there, but you could probably expect to see Brent Marks and Brad Sweet running up towards the front of the field. Another guy to watch for in that one as well is going to be Aaron Reitzel. He was a winner last year twice with the POWRi 410 series at Texas Motor Speedway's dirt track. And so, like I said, I think those two tracks are relatively similar. I think we could expect to see kind of the similar style of racing there as well. Going into that race, 6 of the high rollers have never visited the racetrack, so that means that 8 of them have been there before. The only previous winners at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway dirt track that are in the High Limit Racing full-time field are Brad Sweet and, yeah, you guessed it, Chase Randall, a former winner there as well with the Boss Sprint Car Series. That came back in 2022. So Chase Randall has been there. That could be a place where he gets off to a pretty hot start and tries to make a run for that Race Reading Foundation Rookie of the Year battle. The Saturday finale will pay $25,000 to win. Should be a 30-lap main event. And heading into that race, the drivers, when we get into qualifying, will try to break a track record that has been around for a very long time. Danny Lasowski set it back on March 4th of 2004. 13.719 seconds is the track record over there at Las Vegas Motor Speedway's dirt track. So looking forward to that. It's going to be a great place to kick off the season. Going to be a ton of people in the grandstands. Going to be a ton of cars in the pit area, and going to be a ton of hype around the event as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our little preview to the schedule as well as the drivers. Speaking of the drivers, we do have another guy that's a part of this podcast. You'll be hearing from here in just a moment. That is Tony Laporta, the pit reporter for Kubota High Limit Racing. He was able to catch up with one of our full-time high rollers before we jump into the racing season at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He was with Spencer Bayston.
Sitting down with Spencer Bayston here at the High Limit Racing headquarters in Brownsburg, Indiana. Spencer, I know you're running around Brownsburg getting some stuff done today, so just wanted to say thanks for stopping by and talking to us.
Absolutely. It's always been convenient living in central Indiana my whole life. Up in Lebanon, it's a little bit quieter. Come down here and you spend just an afternoon in Brownsburg. You're going to be around plenty of racing people, and it's perfect for situations like this.
Hey, and you know what? Sometimes you end up at Brickers, Rookies, but we don't need to get into that. That's High Limit after dark.
Maybe
right?
maybe that's later.
Okay.
Later.
I mean, it's 3 o'clock here, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere else, I think. So you got the JMR colors on. Obviously, the big transition going into 2025 is you switching teams. But like, I've got High Limit gear on. You don't have any High Limit. I thought you liked us. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah, no, I do. I do like you guys.
I'm just messing with you.
You're a great group. But I got to rep my colors and my team, and we're getting all packed up, ready to go.
We know you like us because you're back for a second season as a high roller, a full-time driver with Kubota High Limit Racing. But you do make that switch, leaving CJB and coming over to Jason Myers Racing with Corey Day, stepping out as he's transitioning into the pavement world a little bit more going into this year. So I'm interested when drivers change teams, whether they move series or not. You've moved teams. What goes into that? What are some of the things that you and Jason Myers Racing have to do in the time before the race season starts? What are some of the things you've done to be ready to go racing?
Well, one of the best things we could have done that we did was at the end of last season is just get a handful of races under our belt together. A sprint car is a sprint car, generally speaking, but they're all unique and different in their own ways, with components and chassis and engines and mechanics and there's so many variables that go into it that gives us drivers different feels. And, the 14 definitely in those races gave me a different feel than I was used to. And not a bad feel, it's just different. And I think it'll be really, really good as I adapt to it and kind of draw closer to being 100% switched on and comfortable. So we got, right on the edge of that, I think, at Charlotte last year, our final races. And we're going to go run a handful of races here before we get to Vegas, just to kind of get that ball back rolling a little bit, kind of build some chemistry with the guys, and kind of start that process. Because the moment we start in Vegas, it doesn't stop, and it's going to be really, really busy. It's a big year. There's a lot on the line for us. It's a team or a driver change for them. It's a team change for me. So it's a matter of time before we adapt together and kind of build that connection and go out and chase as much as we can this year.
3 years with CJB, am I right on that? Outlaw victories, podiums with High Limit, really good showings. I felt like every season you and the CJB crew rolled out together. You go from working with a legend in the sport as far as the mechanical side goes with Barry Jackson to working with someone who I think is going to be one of those legends when he is in the sport for another 10 or 15 years. Noisy, Shane Bowers. What's it like? I think those are two very different people. I think they're both very intense, Shane and Barry, but Noisy's got his nickname for a reason. He doesn't talk a lot. What's it been like working with Shane and getting used to him?
It's been good. It's I've known Shane for a while, all the way back to the days he was crew chiefing for Brian Clausen. Prior to that, he worked with Barry kind of on the road, a long time ago, back when Shane would have been younger. But getting to know him a little bit better, spend a little more time communicating with him, spend a little time in the shop there in Fresno. I made a couple trips out there this winter, and it was good. I think I'm really excited to start working with him and kind of build that relationship where we're able to kind of understand what each of us need and want, understanding the type of person he is, the type of person I am, and kind of how to coexist in the same space. He's shown that he can put together one of the best race cars on any given night with Corey. And so that, for me, brings a lot of confidence and comfort knowing that I'm in good hands. And, starting from the top with Jason Myers as a great team leader, coordinating and putting together this entire program with all the members. There's, in the sprint car racing in general, there's a lot of teams, more than enough teams that have the best equipment, all the resources they could possibly need. The final key is the personnel. And Jason is a master at putting people together that work together well and understand the type of people that are involved with these programs and kind of what that all takes. And he applies that in his daily life with business, and that's obviously shown he can be very successful at that. So really, really just excited to get going, spend more time with Noisy, and really start to learn and figure out some of the things with this coming season.
Busy off season, you got married, did the honeymoon, saw plenty of content on that. TikTok, you're glad it's back, I'm sure. You and Audrey both very happy.
Audrey's
TikTok.
very glad. Yes.
Audrey's glad. Okay, I like how you worded that. Fan submission, Brian Walker wanted us to ask before this interview was over, where's the dog? Why haven't you bought the dog yet? I hear that's a hot button issue in the Bayston family home. When's the dog going to come out on the road with us?
In the future.
The future?
Sure.
Yeah, that could literally be any time. Because wasn't the bet if she got 10,000 followers on TikTok before you won a race, which what a cutthroat bet from your wife, that then a dog would become a part of the family.
Yeah, I really thought I would have won that bet, and we didn't.
I would have hoped you would have won that bet. I'm pulling for you more than Audrey's social media clout.
Yeah.
She does a great job with the social media. I like the behind the scenes looks people get from your guys' world racing and going on the road. But she got there. She got her number. What's the story on the dog?
I think people think I hate dogs because of this whole thing. I love dogs. I grew up with hunting dogs, German short hairs. We had a house dog as well. I've always loved dogs.
Yeah.
We don't live a life that
conducive to dogs,
but everyone has one somehow, and we love the life we're in right now. We love just being able to spontaneously get up and leave for a couple of days if we want, and a dog just adds kind of a headache to that. So we will have a dog sometime down the road. I don't know if it'll be while we are both traveling, but I like dogs. I do like dogs. I've always loved dogs.
Spencer Bayston, he loves dogs.
Yeah.
He's happy to call Indiana home. And I'm not from Indiana, but I'm happy to call it home also. Excited to be working with Jason Myers Racing and the team for 2025, and makes sure to always rep his team's colors. Those are a few of the things we've learned here. Spencer, always good to talk to you. Thank you for making the trip out of your way to come over here to the shop, and really look forward to seeing you on track at Las Vegas to start the season and throughout all of 2025.
I appreciate it. It's going to be a good year, and we're certainly excited to get going.
All right, great stuff from Spencer Bayston there as he talks about his 2025 season as he rolls in with a new team at Jason Myers Racing. We're now into our final portion of the High Limit Room show, and I am now joined by the Kubota Spirit Award winner and $5,000 last year. That is High Limit Racing pit reporter Tony the Reporter. I'm so used to saying Laporta, Tony. I said Laporta. I meant to say Laporta. Tony Laporta. And social media expert for High Limit Racing, that is Brian Walker. And in this segment, we're going to give you a couple of hot takes on things that may happen this season, things that will happen at the next race. And we get to get into a little bit of gambling as well. This year, you'll have the opportunity to play for a chance to win with High Limit Racing, whether that's DFS as Daily Fantasy Sports or the outright winners, something that is going to be really fun to pay attention to this year and see if anybody can hit the ultimate jackpot, as we say, with High Limit Racing. So, guys, let's get into some stuff about as far as the overall season goes, maybe some hot takes here, or maybe your pick for the championship, your pick for the Rookie of the Year. Let's hear what you guys have to say. My first one, I'll start real quick. I want to start with the Rookie of the Year battle, and I think the guy that's going to be Rookie of the Year, I think it's going to be Chase Randall. I really like what I've seen from him the last couple of years. Coming out with the family-owned team, I'm a little bit worried that they might get off to a slow start, but I think that Chase Randall has shown maybe the most promise on the national stage the last couple of years. He could be the Rookie of the Year. What do you guys think?
You stole my pick, so that ruined my segment. Tony, what do you think?
You know, Chase, I think the hardest thing going into 2025 with Kubota High Limit Racing is what you opened up the show with, and that's talking about that Race Rudine Foundation Rookie of the Year battle. 4 drivers are going for that title here in 2025. And personally, for me, it's harder for me to give you my pick for Rookie of the Year than it is for champion or, even the championship podium at the end of the 2025 season. Our Rookie of the Year class going into 2025, I think, is extremely stout. They're a bunch of fast, young, talented, and aggressive young drivers. When you ask me who I think is going to get that Race Rudine Foundation Rookie of the Year, that's really, really tough. What'd you just say? Chase Randall, the quickest chicken, Waco, Texas, is your pick. Brian, sounds like that was your pick as well. He's a great pick. All of them are, right? That's why it's so hard. I really look for Dayson Pursley to do some really incredible things this year. But, it's also hard to look at Cy Lynch, a guy with so much experience and so much time behind the wheel. And then, man, Danny Sams comes out of the box in Florida with the Outlaws and looks as good as possible. So, yeah, there's my pick. I think it's going to be a great race for the Rookie of the Year battle. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be close. I think they're all going to be, like, let's just say they're all 9th to 13th in points. I feel like they're all going to be all over each other, and it could come down to the very end. I think that you can make a case for all 4 of them for winning it and for losing it, really. So the Rookie of the Year battle is certainly going to be fun. Now, looking at the overall championship, obviously it's very hard to not think about Brad Sweet being what would be the 7th championship in a row for him. But coming in with the new crew chief, I know they got off to a hot start at Volusia, ran very well down there with the Outlaws against a stout field, but Ty Wolfgang comes in replacing Eric Prutzman. Brad Sweet is still going to be Brad Sweet. We know what he can do, but Brian, I'm going to start with you, and we'll come back to me last as far as the championship bit goes. Who do you think is going to be the champion this year with High Limit? Do you think Brad Sweet continues his reign of terror?
I don't think so. No, I think it ends this year after 6 straight years, right? Winning a national championship. I think it's any of 5 guys. I want to say Brad, Rico, Sunshine, Brent Marks, and I'd put Aaron Reitzel in the mix. If you're going to force me into a decision, I'm going to say Rico. I think the wrist injury, getting hurt down under in Australia, and him not being able to race really changed his mindset, and he's a lot more locked in this year going into 2025. And I believe with Ricky Warner, Zach Middlebrooks, and Brady Forbrick, I think they still have the longest continuous crew on the tour by now, with Eric leaving the 49 team. So I think they're gonna. If I had to make a pick today, I'm going Rico Aber for the title.
What do you got, Tony?
I mean, again, it's a cop-out, and I will give you a pick, but I just think, Brian, Rico's a great pick, and Chase, I'm excited to hear yours. I don't care what anyone says. Kubota High Limit Racing has such a deep and talented field, and whether you're fighting for a win, a top 5, or hell, just a top 10, if you come to race with High Limit this year, you're going to have your work cut out for you, is all I'm going to say. Rico, absolutely a formidable opponent. I agree with you, Brian, though, in the sense that I don't think Brad will go back-to-back in series championships with High Limit. And that's not necessarily because of the crew chief change or anything. You got to think about it. Eric's not leaving the program, right? Eric Pretzman now oversees everything at Casey Kane Racing. He's going to be, more day-to-day, I guess, with Casey in the 9 car, but Eric Pretzman's not leaving. Those cars pit right next to each other every single night. Ty's a super smart, super, well-versed guy in this world already at the young age he is. But when it comes down to it, Eric Pretzman's still going to be involved in the 49. That's just what I believe, and I think, you'll see instances where that happens this year. Tyler Courtney's consistency in 2024 was deadly, right? I think rolling into Lawrenceburg, he was 7 or 8 second-place finishes, and that was like right around the halfway point of the season. And, I don't know how many he ended up with. He tied Brad for the Midweek Money Series Championship, and he was right there at the end of the season. Picked up the Jake's Golf Carts Fastest Lap Award. So not only was he consistent in finishing up really high at the end of our features in 2024, he was fast more nights than he wasn't. So Tyler Courtney is who I really watch to threaten Brad for the championship. But you're right, Brian. I think Ricky, and Brent Marks and his crew, they need to tighten up their West Coast swing, Chase, like you said in the opener. But, man, don't sleep on the 19 either. It's going to be a fight amongst all those guys at the top of the field, I think, for the championship this year.
So you're going with Brad? Was that what we got there?
No, absolutely not. I said Brad will not repeat as the champion. I think Tyler Courtney has something for Brad and the rest of the field this year.
I think my earphones might have malfunctioned.
You're a giraffe. You're all neck, no ear.
All neck, no ear. That's correct. I have not heard that one before. I have heard the giraffe, but not the neck part. But I hear that all the time.
Who do you got?
Well, I feel like those two guys are the closest ones to Brad to overtake him. And then I feel like maybe there's and when I say like another notch down, like that notch, I mean it's like there, that's the notch. It's not very far down to, I feel like, Brent and Reitzel, and maybe you could throw Peck in there as well with the speed they've shown already. But I want to be a little bit different than you guys, and so I feel like to do that and have it be kind of realistic, I feel like I kind of have to go with Brad to do it again. I would like to see a Sunshine or a Rico do it. But like Tony said there, I mean, Eric Pretzman is still going to be on this or around this pit area every single race. If they get off for a few nights, I mean, it's going to take him 5 steps to get over to the trailer and say, hey, well, maybe you should try this and try that, right? So I'm going to go with Brad just to be different than you guys. I just don't see anybody else at that level quite yet. I mean, we could see when we get to the first 5 or so races, we could see a Peck or a Reitzel showing the way and proving us all wrong. But I'm going to go with Brad Sweet. Too much experience. It doesn't matter, what track they're at. I mean, he's going to be running up front. So I'll go with Brad. Brian's got Rico, and Tony has got Sunshine. So
and Chase, I just want to add, if I can, really quick, Brian, I think your pick is really, really solid, and Rico's a threat anywhere he goes. I don't know what you think, Brian, but the only reason I don't instinctively say Rico is because they had such a slow start to 2024 as far as getting wins and him even standing on the podium. If they can fix that part of getting out of the box on a much better foot here in 2025, then I think your pick looks really, really strong. They just did not fire off at the start of 24, and they'll admit that to you, the way they needed to fight for that championship.
I think that will be corrected because I attest that to Rico never having ran a full national sprint car season before and him just getting used to and acquainted to what it's like point racing every night, which Brad Sweet is the king of. That's why he's won 6 straight. I think Rico will be, I think the start of his season will be much different.
Yeah, I'd say Rico was probably the best car on tour the last 15, 20 races there. He was unbelievable. Now I want to get into some hot takes for the season, and I've got 2. Over the first one, and this one's, like I said, hot take, maybe a long shot here, but I think that it is possible for Kasey Kahne to get a win this year if the circumstances are right. He's got Eric Prutzman helping him out, and they looked very fast at the end of the year in 2024 at World Finals. I think Kasey got a top 5 against a really solid field there. And I think that this could finally be the year for Kasey. We've seen him win everything as a car owner, but not quite as a driver. So that's one of my bold takes there, is Kasey Kahne gets a win with the new crew chief, Eric Prutzman. And the other one, and this one might be bold as well, but I'm going to say Aaron Reitzel wins 7 races at least this year. Because, Brian, you and I have talked off camera about this. He has won at the most tracks that we go to this year on the high limit schedule. 16 tracks that he's won at that we go back to this year. So I think Reitzel's going to be super, super good. But those are my 2 bold or hot takes. What do you got, Tony?
Well, I don't think those are bold or hot takes personally, Chase. I think those are italic and warm takes personally. I absolutely agree with you on Kasey, right? And maybe I wouldn't have been as, to quote you, bold to come out and say I think Kasey's going to win. I thought going into this show when we were kind of discussing topics, I was definitely ready to go out there and say, hey man, Kasey's going to stand on the podium multiple times this year with the addition of Eric Prutzman to that car. I don't think a win is out of the question for that number 9 KKR car. And you bring up the point of them getting Eric Prutzman over from Brad Sweet, being night to night, I guess, really is the term on Kasey's car. But also, I don't know if either of you two guys, Brian, I know you're a Dale Jr. download addict. Chase, I don't know if you watch him, but Kasey was just on Dale Jr.'s show like 2 weeks ago, and it was so cool to just hear him speak. He seems way more relaxed. He just seemed really open, and I don't know if something has changed in the last year or two. I know completing all of the 2024 high limit season was a big item for him to cross off his list. He had never gone start to finish, perfect attendance, run the whole tour of a national touring sprint car series. He'd always wanted to do that. And so I think him accomplishing that last year is a big deal to him. He's in a good place mentally. I agree with you, Chase. I think Kasey's going to absolutely show some serious speed and be up at the front much more consistently than he was last year. Brian?
I agree 100% with I think Kasey will win a race. That was one of mine. I think he absolutely finally gets that first national win. My second one, I think, or I have Chase Randall winning the Rookie of the Year in general. I think it's going to be a very tight battle, and I think all 4 rookies combine to win 5+ races between Cy. Yeah, hey, it's hot take for a reason.
That's really hot, yeah.
Cy, Dason, Chase, and Danny. I think between the 4 of them, we got 60 races. I think they combine to win 5+.
That's probably the boldest one I think we've heard out of this.
That's what we're here to do.
That is what we are here to do. Now, the final portion of this video, we want to talk about Vegas and talk about some of who we think could be the best drivers, for your chance to win. Go to nxtbets.com/playhlr. You can check this all out for Las Vegas. But the daily fantasy sports, the outright winners. Who are some guys that we think could be in there to potentially grab the win and maybe give you a chance to win? So I think we've mentioned his name a lot, but I think Aaron Reitzel is going to be good at Vegas. He was good at Texas last year. I think that those 2 tracks are at least a little bit similar. He won twice with Power Eye. He was leading with us there at the end of the year as well. So I think Aaron Reitzel, I think that for that first race, he might be, as far as the outright winners, he could be pretty good odds. I feel like he could be pretty high in the odds because, I don't know, I just feel like he's not that well-known name for some reason. But so he could be priced a little bit, lower, or maybe when it comes to the daily fantasy side, if you can get him at, maybe 8 or 9, 9.5, something like that. I mean, that is, I think that's one that you got to take. So, Brian, who do you got? You're the expert here. Let's hear it.
I did go 3 for 3 with the Outlaws at Volusia, so
that's good.
Unfortunately, I can't bet on the Vegas one, but I think it's hard to go against Kyle Larson right now just because the 57 learned how to qualify. That's a little scary for the rest of the field and the rest of sprint car racing in general. I would say the 57, if you're looking for a good value, I'd be interested to see what Chase Randall comes out at. He's won at Vegas before. Him and, was it like 22? They ran it was an XR race maybe. So he's got experience there. He's won there. He'll be back in his own stuff. So I would say Kyle Larson's probably my favorite. That's a cop-out. But other than that, I'd say Chase Randall.
Tony, what do you got?
Brian, it's not a cop-out, and it has nothing to do with the fact that Kyle signs our checks. Chase, you picking Brad to win the championship, same thing. Not a cop-out either. He's just the guy that tells us what to do every single day. You guys are allegiant and you're loyal to the employers and our series owners. I commend you for that. I'm a little bit more used to living out on the edge, right? I don't think Brad's going to win the championship. I think Kyle's absolutely a threat, Brian, for Vegas. I'm with you on that. But, man, Christopher Bell, I mean, talk about coming out of the gate down in Florida at Volusia. That's a big, fast, wide open half mile. We're going to see more of the same kind of racing in Vegas. I don't know if the weather is as conducive to the speeds that you saw down in Volusia. Hopefully not. Engine builders certainly probably would like it to be a little bit slower with the air down there in Vegas. But, man, Christopher Bell, just watched a cool interview a minute ago or so about Joe Gibbs and the decision to let those guys go back to racing dirt. It's clearly been a massive positive in Bell's life. And, man, he's like the emperor. He's got his groove back right now, okay? And I think Christopher Bell not only loves being back in a dirt car, he loves racing against guys like Kyle. Brian, you're right. Larson and Paul have gotten that 57 qualifying really, really well right now, especially on big tracks. But Christopher Bell, I think he's just kind of found something right now, and so much of this game is mental, and he feels good right now. Bell does. He comes in off of a couple great weeks in Tulsa, that outlaw win down there at Volusia. So Christopher Bell is on a roll. Chase, give him some butter. I think he's going to stay on it.
I'm gonna send this to Kyle real quick, Chase, because Kyle always gives me crap for me favoring Bell over him, and I picked Kyle and you picked Bell, Tony. So
yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep. There goes that raise that Tony was going to get. It's gone. He's done. So I like the Bell pick because he's in the 69K. That car led laps both nights at Texas, which, like I said earlier, I feel like the tracks are somewhat similar. So Bell's definitely going to be a guy to watch for as well. What you'll notice in these sections of this show throughout the year, I'm a guy that likes to take a lot more risk with my when it comes to my dabbling in this type of thing. So
and your fashion choices, you like to take a lot of risk there as well.
Aaron Reitzel's really a bold pick.
Well, it's not
Brian.
Too crazy.
It's a hot take.
It's not a hot take at all. He'll be good.
Yeah, he's going to be good.
Chase is like, there's this guy that's won a bunch of outlaw races. I think he's going to win more wing sprint car races. That's my hot take.
Well, I guess after this, when we head out of here, I'll go look up the definition of a hot take, and maybe next week I'll be able to give you guys a little bit more that's a little bit hotter, maybe around like the 375-degree mark, Tony. That's where you bake all your cookies at, right?
Yeah, that's where I bake my cookies at. But I do just want to make a disclaimer. I know everyone at the end of this is going to be like, wow, TLP said all the rookies are going to be good, and he picked the guy that ran second last year for the championship. He's the one that needs more hotter takes. Poor grammar, first of all, Twitter commenter. And second, Chase, I just want to remind you that you live – Chase, you get to live up in the booth, right? You get to be away from everybody. I've got to be down in the pits every night with these guys. So if I come on here and I go – you're crazy, Chase. That guy's not going to win a thing all year, and this guy is going to be, out in front. I'm going to have drivers and crew chiefs beating me up before we get to April, is all I'm saying. So my takes will be warm to medium hot as the season goes on, but I can't risk getting beat up down there, so that's why I'm kind of also going lukewarm. That was my disclaimer.
Yeah, I totally get it. I've seen you get beat up a bunch of times. We don't need that happening anymore. So
I've seen you strutting through the pits in a cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. I wouldn't even want to fight you.
Yeah, who's that?
That's true.
Who's that, Brian? Me?
You. Like if you and Brenton Marvel squared up, I'd be scared for Brenton.
Out of the three of us, the last one of us to wear a cowboy hat in the pits at a racetrack was you at the Chili Bowl Nationals. I have the photos and videos to prove it. So let's leave the Stetsons out of this conversation.
Yeah, enough cowboy talk, guys. Well, I believe that's what we've got here on the High Limit Room show. Brian and Tony, it has been a fun first episode, and like I said, we will be doing this weekly. Every single week, we'll be talking about storylines, different things that have happened throughout that particular race week. We'll be previewing and reviewing certain races, and obviously we will get more into this part of the show where we give you some of our picks. So if you want to play, make sure to go to nxtbets.com/playhlr, and you can check out which sports books and things like that are available in your area, whether that's going to be the daily fantasy sports or with being able to bet on outright winners as well. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Tony and Brian, enjoy your day. We'll see you guys in Las Vegas. And thank you guys so much for watching the High Limit Room show. We'll talk to you next week.